Where's that light coming from? Huh? How angelic is that, isn't it? Huh. So angelic. Alright. I want to talk to you about something. Because I got a cigarette. And, so, in the first season of the Witch House Chronicles, I figured we understood, we got introduced to Salina, Kansas. Everybody, like in the first season, learned about Salina, Kansas, pretty much through me. I think I was like I don't know, maybe the protagonist in the first season, and we kind of got an idea of who the antagonists were in the first season. So we understood the protagonist and antagonist in the first season. We understood the setting, like in any TV show. You know, you have to know a storyline, the plot, what is going on here first, before you start getting into the real nitty gritty of the storyline. So, probably in the second season, this is what I would think would be interesting. It's a go towards a different storyline, if you know what I mean. We transition it. We already know some characters in Witch Hunt Chronicles of Salina, Kansas, where the setting is and who it involves. But we don't really know what's going on beyond that at this point. We've only seen it from first season's characters, uh, but we haven't looked at like heroes in the story, like who are really the heroes and who are really the villains in the story. Who's going to be like the ones that are going to be remembered in the second season for whatever, and who's in the second season going to be remembered as the villains. And then probably in the third saga or the trilogy, we don't know what the finale is going to be like overall. This could like reach like global, story plots and lines and everything. I mean, we could really go over the top, just like, John Galliano in his show. First you get a little taste, then the plot thickens. And I mean, you get a place, the setting, you understand what's going on, and then the plot thickens by the second half of the series, and then in the third series it just blows the fuck up, like, woo, everybody's celebrating. You have like acrobatic Renaissance people like jumping from trampoline or trapeze acts, and like people dressed up as flowers down there. It just gets over the top. That it's just one of the greatest movies ever made on the internet. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy or what, or just being creative. But hell, I don't know how the story's gonna end up. We already know where the setting. We already know pretty much everything. Maybe the characters that were involved in the first season, but we sure don't know who's going to be the next, like where the plot's going to go in the second season. Because I'll tell you this, Poltergeist 2 was the scariest out of all three. By the movies, Poltergeist 2 undoubtedly was the scariest one. It was so scary I couldn't sleep because of it. The first one was scary, but the second one terrified me. The third one, I didn't really understand it too much, but I think I understood because, Caroline, she wasn't in there anymore. She actually had passed away, but the storyline was much different. A lot of the main characters from the first and second season had passed away, and they were no longer in the actual movie, but it was lifted by different sets of characters in the third one. It wasn't bad. It was just a different setting at that point. They were in Chicago at that point. It got bigger and wider. Like poltergeists were following them, like into skyscrapers and shit. And it was crazy, but I can't imagine. But yeah, the second one was terrifying, so scary, kept me on the edge of my seat, traumatized me for years. I can't imagine like being the protagonist and the antagonist in the second installment of Poltergeist. At that point, Caroline was not even relevant in the thing. She was just like the damsel in distress. You know, it became the heroes of the storyline, the villains, the old like Poltergeist dude that led everybody back in like the 1800s into the ground and killed them all and suffocated them all, and they became like these evil spirits. And then like you had like this new group of like protagonists, main characters, like the psychics, the Indian shamans, you know, the grandmother, Caroline's grandmother. So these were like all new people entering into the storyline, and at this point, her family are just victims. That's all they are, just victims in the story. They are no longer the main characters in the story. It goes from Poltergeist first, Caroline being the main character, to she's just a damsel in distress, and everybody else is the protagonist and the antagonist. So they're all fighting each other now. But like I said, the third one takes on a whole different level. It's not even the same storyline. It's completely different. And a lot of the main characters from this first and second movie are no longer in the storyline. It gets, yeah. So, like most movies like that, you know, it's hard to make a really, really good trilogy, though. But it can be done. It can be done. All I do at this point is just frickin' like do aromancy when I smoke cigarettes outside and I show you Kansas. You know who I am in the first season. I might have been the protagonist in the first season, but you also know who the antagonists were. There's not much of a storyline, but you understand who they are and where the setting is. I can't imagine what the second season would be like, where there's more action, adventure, you know, intrigue, debauchery, espionage. You know, it just, the plot thickens. It just goes beyond everything. It could be the hit of this, like, I don't know, Christmas or something, or autumn, fall hit, yeah, fall hit, box office blockbuster. Like I said, the second Poltergeist I thought was better than the first, actually. Second one scared me and terrified me so fucking much, you know. Like, I would totally now know who transition this story into, like, Witch Hunt Chronicles of Salina, Kansas, the second installment or something. It would be so fucking cool. I could only want to know what's happening. Because I'm getting tired of just sitting here waiting if there's going to be food someday at my door. because I can't get it. I'm just waiting. I can't really do anything. I just wait. That's all I do is just wait. Don't know where it's gonna lead, but I just wait. Couldn't imagine being where all the action is at. Who's the heroes, who's the villains, and getting like a front row seat, you know, like, wow, this story totally took a different turn. I don't know, what is the best trilogy that was ever written? The Lord of the Rings? Who knows? Lord of the Rings? How many movies? Harry Potter? I don't know. It just, some trilogies are just timeless masterpieces. I wouldn't say, I mean, the first two installments of Poltergeist were timeless masterpieces, but, you know, there's always other ones like Harry Potter who made it even better, you know, by the third one, I guess. So, the plot thickens. Where does it go? I don't know. America's Greatest, like, internet series show. I don't know. Just being creative. Because I know I'm getting boring. We already know what James sounds like when he takes a fucking shit, you know. What does the hot dudes look like? The hot, heroic heroes look like? You know, who are they? Or who are the villains now? So, does the second movie outdo the first at this point? Like, is everybody talking about the second movie being like the hottest thing right now? It's like, oh my god, did you see the second one? That one's like, oh, kick ass. Kick ass, if you know what I mean. It's just like, oh, like, these heroes, they're just like, you would never expect it. You would never expect it. The storyline, how much it's just thick and juicy. Fat, juicy, and wet. It just keeps getting fat, juicy, and wet, if you know what I mean. So anyways, yeah. I'm the boring one. I can't imagine how fat, juicy, and wet it can get out there. If you know what I mean. If I brought in a sold-out concert, I can't imagine what kind of sold-out concert is actually going on that I haven't attended yet. It might even be a stadium, not just a venue at this point. You know, give us more. I'll just be Rapunzel sitting in here. I mean, we already know that storyline. Now, where does Prince Charming end up? You know, what is his role now? What's his storyline? He just didn't come out of the woods out of nowhere to save her ass. He actually was doing some massive work to find this chick. You know? Not only that, but he was probably doing a lot more than we thought. I don't know. Ooh, look at that. Great sunlight. So, yeah. I don't know. We seem to have another storyline that could emerge that's better than the first, if you know what I mean. By Christmas, by Christmas we will we'll have a international worldwide blockbuster, if you know what I mean. I can only guess. Wouldn't it be great that Salina, Kansas became like one of the greatest, like, I don't know, internet sensations that ever, like, everybody was famous. Everybody, all at the same time. It's like everybody became famous in this storyline. Just a bunch of us people out in the like, heart of America, you know. Where does this go? Like, such a interesting town. Nobody even suspected. There's no place like home, you know, was like this interesting. Like, now you know why Dorothy wanted to come back. It was just too much. All right, so I think I'm gonna define terms and important story plots and lines, and let's look at stories, like how they're written and how they accumulate. And I mean, I'm sure everybody in this town has a cell phone at this point, and they all can, like, do what I do. Right now I'm running out of time. So the clock's ticking. I can't imagine what the storyline is elsewhere at this point. I just keep the cameras rolling all over the fucking place at this point. This would be like maximum speed, like surveillance nonstop all over Salina, Kansas. Just going nonstop. Everybody, boom, boom, boom. Everybody's watch. And it just gets thicker and thicker. I mean, you just couldn't help it at that point. Everybody around the world would be glued to it. The storyline gets thicker, like, you know. So anyways, who knows? Yeah, I'm not the guy of interest anymore. I'm just like, I was the protagonist. We found out who the antagonists were in the first installment, in the first season, or the first series. Shit, this could end up being a massive TV series. Who knows where this will lead? But ultimately, it could be like one of those hit TV series that never, like got old, you know. It was like everybody still went back and watched The Sopranos because it was still such a good movie or TV show. It still has, like, a lot of, you know, I can't imagine, like, The Sopranos, like, not being like one of the most important, like, TV series in American history, like media history. And how thick that story got, you know, after the pilot episode. Pilot episodes are never really that great, but they're enough to get you started. Like, am I really interested in what I'm watching? Was it that good? Until you meet, like, there's more to the story than just the pilot episode. The pilot was a test run, but the rest of the storyline gets better as we go if you want to continue watching. But anyways, let's talk about writing a story. I'm sure reality TV works that way too. There's not a lot of editing needed in reality TV. There's always a storyline, if you know what I mean. It just gets better. The bigger, the wider, like, you know, the more you know, the better. You know, it just gets better that way. Like, oh, who's this? Who's this person? Oh, do we want this person? Yeah, so I don't think I'm the main character in the first installment anymore. I can't imagine what the second series would bring at this point. So, or the second part of the trilogy or saga, however this goes. So, yeah, why stop a good thing, right? we've only finished the first season. Why don't we go on to a second season? So, anyways, let's talk about writing and storytelling real quick, if you don't mind. Uh, so, let's talk about trilogies and sagas first, or just series in general. All right, and saga. So, I mean, why stop now? The plot's already starting to thicken, you know? We want to know more. What else is going on? All right. So we'll start with saga. All right. So it's a saga is a long story or detailed series of events. The word originally meant a medieval Icelandic or Norse prose tale about heroic deeds and family histories, but today it describes any extended, complicated, or dramatic chain of events. Old Norse roots. The term the term comes from an Old Norse word meaning tale or what is said. The traditional sagas were written in Iceland and Scandinavia during the 12th and 13th century, real and legendary. They mixed true family histories, tribal feuds, and Viking voyages with folklore and myth. So, modern meaning family or multi part novel, a book or movie series following a single family or group across multiple generations. Long, messy situations, an informal way to describe a long and convoluted or frustrated real life event like an ongoing ordeal with car repairs or home buying. The saga of lost paperwork. So it just I can't imagine how much more it gets. So let's look at trilogies. So is a group of three related artistic works like books, movies, or plays that connect through a shared theme setting or a group of characters. Each part can stand alone on its own piece, but together they form a bigger, complete story. So, yeah. Like books, three novels following the same hero or world. Movies, the film continuing a single plot line. Three connected albums or performance sharing one big idea. So, all right. So let's look at protagonists at this point. Who's in the first series of Witch Hunts Chronicles of Salina, Kansas? We understand who the protagonist is, right? But we also understand what the setting is. The setting. So the setting is where? Is the time and place and environment or surrounding context in which an event happens. A story takes place or an object is placed. It can also mean a control level on a machine, a metal jewel mount, or tableware for. Okay, scene or story. The time period, physical location, weather, and social climate where a narrative happens. All right. Environment, the real life surrounding our background context of an event or person. So we already know what the setting is. All right. This is going to be the continuous setting as far as we know. All right. In the first series of Witch Hunt Chronicles of Salina, Kansas, we understand who the protagonist at this point is. So that's just in the first series, all right? We're not talking about the second series yet. We're just talking about the first series. We understand what's going on in the first series. Is the main character in a storybook, movie, or play. The person drives the plot forward, facing the main conflict and changes or grows by the end of the narrative, all right? And so we're understanding also who the antagonists are, all right? But we really don't know too much about them. I'm sorry, there's a fly flying around here. But An antagonist is a character, group, or force that stands against the main character, the protagonist in a story. This opposition creates conflict, all right? Tension and challenges that the main character must try to overcome. So, all right. So we understand who the antagonists and main characters are, protagonists and antagonists in the first series. All right. So we know that there is a damsel in distress at this point. And the storytelling trope describes a young woman who is captured, threatened, or in trouble and needs a hero, usually male, to rescue her in literary media studies. It is also classified as a stock character or plot device or topos, a traditional literary motif. The character is often passive and unable or unwilling to fix the danger herself. The rescue mission, her primary role in the plot, is to motivate the hero's journey and triumph. All right. The concept stems from the medieval knight-errant tales and chivalric codes where protecting women was a duty. All right. So we also know that, here's another one, common modern, distressed dude, the male equivalent of the trope. All right. So who is the knight in shining armor at this point? I have no clue. All right. We already know this. All right. We already know a protagonist in the first installment of the Witch House Chronicles of Salina, Kansas, right? This is the first series. We understand the characters that may be the antagonists in the story, all right? So, and we also know where the setting is located. We also know there's a damsel in distress, possibly, right? We're assuming at this point. We don't know who the knight in shining armor is. We know a stock character is a flat, familiar fictional type based on common stereotypes or cultural conventions. Readers and viewers instantly recognize them without needing deep backstories or complex development. All right. The damsel in distress at this point is a stock character. She or he is no longer relevant really to the storyline. All right. Their storyline has already been told. We already know who they are. We already know where the setting is located. We already know who the potential protagonists are. But who are the hero characters now? Who are the knight in shining armors is an idiom for a heroic, brave, and chivalrous person who comes to rescue someone in a tough time. If you mean a specific character who literally fits the description and named hero or shining armor, a few notable examples exist in pop culture. So, a prominent unicorn character, who serves as captain of the royal guard and physically embodies the trope, all right? My Little Pony, Friendship and Magic. So, Sir Justin, a DC comic hero and former Round Table Knight who wears enchanting gleaming armor and rides a winged horse. Generic archetypal hero in literature and romance trope. The rescuing knight is often called the hero of the story. So right here is the important one, in my opinion. The archetypal hero, all right? This person is going to redefine what a hero may be in a second. In like series of Witch Hunt Chronicles of Salina, Kansas. Now, this doesn't mean one single hero. This can mean a group of heroes, all right? Whatever the story, however we want to create it at this point, all right? So, where does this storyline go? We already know the damsel in distress from this. That storyline has already been told 1,000 times now. We already know everything. We know at this point, that is a stock character, and the hero character is now the main protagonist in a story, play, or movie, or a person noted for courage, noble qualities, and self-sacrifice. In literature, they drive the plot forward and undergoing a journey or face multiple trials. So, key traits of a hero. Acts bravely even when facing great danger or fear. Selflessness puts the need of others or the common good above personal gain. Growth learns, adapts, or changes over the course of the story. Flaws often has personal weakness that makes them relatable and realistic. All right, so your classical hero. Strong, brave, noble, often seeking honor or glory. Achilles, everyman hero, an ordinary person trusts into ordinary circumstances without special powers. And then we go into these. Tragic hero, but I don't think these are relevant right now. I think this right here, because we don't have an anti-hero. This is probably more like me right here, the anti-hero, a main character who lacks traditional heroic qualities such as morality or idealism, but still drives the central narrative, all right? A tragic hero, a character who, with a great profile or noble standing, who makes a fatal error leading to their downfall. So apparently, you know, the guy who thinks he's the hero in the story or the main character is actually the tragic hero versus the guy who is the classic hero. So now we have two storylines. One, the tragic hero who thought he was the fucking top dog. And now we have the classic hero. So he could be considered a villain, right? A character with a great profile or noble standing who makes a fatal error leading to their downfall, right? So, yeah, we got through trilogy. And then let's go through how a storyline is written, all right? Storyline. Written graphs. So in school you usually have this, they tell you right here how a storyline is written. All right, so a storyline written graph, commonly called a plot diagram or narrative arc, is a visual tool that maps the rise and fall of tension and action in a story over time. It typically follows a mountain-like shape, starting with a calm opening, rising through conflicts, peaking or a major turning point, and dropping to a resolution. So basically the key points of it is exposed start, a flat or low line showing normal life before the main problem begins. I think we're right here in the storyline, honestly. This is, in my opinion, we're just exposed start, a flat or low line showing normal life before the main problem begins. All right, trigger event. All right, so let's look at this graph. Oh, that's not a very good graph. Come on. Let's see if we can get this graph to, all right. So right here, we're in this right here in the storyline, in my opinion. Like, we already know what's kind of going on, but we need that conflict and that rising action of the story, right? We need that so we can get to the climax, which is, let's go into it. We already know what the triggering event may be. What's the rising action? An upward sloping line where problems grow and tensions get higher. So there's something else brewing, all right, underneath. We're starting to break through. So the climax, the peak of the mountain, where the main fight or the biggest choice happens, all right? So this is where the story like climaxes. It gets really good. All right. It just gets, everybody's on the edge of their seat. All right. Um, but we're going to just keep going on because it gets even better. All right. Falling action, a downward line where loose ends start to wrap up after the peak. All right. So things start to fall down. All right. And then resolution. So a flat end like showing the final new normal for the characters. So all right. So here's the ending. All right. Here's the ending of the story. But this is the but this is not how things work in real life, all right? This is not how reality works. It's good for story writing, but the real thing is multiple. You have multiple going. Multiple storyline written, multiple graphs, diagram. So I forget what it's called, but we'll gram, all right. Let's see. So you're gonna get like something like this, really, in reality. This is what you're gonna get. This right here, all right, that's just the basic. What you're gonna get is like shit like, I'm sorry. In reality, you're gonna get stuff like this where it just, there's so much going on at some point, you know. You actually have a subplot going on, and I don't know, I forget what it is. Is it Macbeth with Gloucester? Let's see, Gloucester, and I forget what his name is. Gloucester, Shakespeare. I forget. Is it Shakespeare? King Lear. Yeah. So you have Gloucester. You have another one, Gloucester, and I think Richard or something. You have a whole different storyline going underneath it. So not only do you have one storyline going, but you have multiple storylines going. A subplot here, a subplot there. Like it just, there's so much going on. So it's just not one story. You might have this umbrella story going, but ultimately you have these multiple stories going on. And then it could just keep going, you know. So there's more, there's this, you know. So you might have, all right, here's some more rising ash. Oh my God, here's more, you know, like it just, so you're not relegated to this concept. In fact, there's just not one storyline involved. There is so many. So many. I mean, who knows where it could go at this point? How long it could go? Look, the Hunger Games. Look how many different plot lines apparently the Hunger Games has. It's just not one plot line. It's multiple things happening, various things. It just gets thicker and better as we go. So, I don't know. That's how you can write a story, in my opinion. It can get bigger and better as you go. It doesn't have to fit into one diagram. Actually, there's multiple things happening. So, it could get better or it can get worse. But in my opinion, the first series of Witch Hunt Chronicles of Salina, Kansas is not as good as the second story I think could be. So, all right, talk to you guys later. Bye.